my loves, welcome back to my channel. It has been exactly a year since I uploaded my serial killer video. We're putting that on hold for a while. There are some few cases that I want to investigate, so that will be happening. But this is still another true crime, and that is the kidnapping of Elizabeth Smart. Now, if you are interested, please keep watching. It will mean so much to me. Hit the notification bell so you won't miss when I upload. It could be another year. Like and comment as well, please, because I'd appreciate that so much. So yeah, let's get straight into this video. So I just want to give a background on Elizabeth Smart's main two her captors, and her main one was Brian David Mitchell. So Brian was born on October 18th, 1953 in Salt Lake City, Utah. He was the third child of 6 children. His parents had 6 children. They were part of an LDS family. His mother was a teacher and his father was a social worker. In order to teach Mitchell about sex, his father reportedly showed his adolescent son explicit photos from a medical journal. And in order to teach him about independence, he would drive Mitchell to unfamiliar parts of Salt Lake and drop him off, leaving him to find his way home. Who in their right mind would do that though? That's just fucked up. At the age of 16, Brian actually exposed himself to a young child and he was sent to a juvenile hall. At the age of 18, he was married and had 2 children with a woman named Karen Minor. She was 3 years younger than him, making her 16 years old. After their divorce, Karen awarded custody of both children, after which Mitchell temporarily fled with the children to New Hampshire. He resided in New Hampshire for 2 years, where he joined a Hare Krishna commune. Brian had a history of drug and alcohol abuse in his adult life. Upon returning back to Salt Lake, he was inspired to seek sobriety by his brother, who had recently returned from a mission. Back in Salt Lake, Mitchell had 2 additional children with his second wife, Debbie, who herself had 3 children from a previous marriage, and they divorced in 1984. After their separation, Debbie alleged that Brian had sexually abused her 3-year-old son. The claim could not be medically confirmed, but Mitchell's future visitations with his children were ordered to be supervised by the Division of Child and Family Services. One of Debbie's daughters from her previous marriage would later claim that Mitchell had sexually abused her for 4 years. The day that Mitchell and Debbie's divorce was actually finalised, he married Wanda Elaine Barzee, a then 40-year-old divorcee with 6 children. Barzee had a troubled relationship with her children. One of her daughters would later refer to her as a monster. And she would also claim that when she was a child, Wanda fed her pet rabbit to her for dinner. Together, Brian and Wanda were actively involved in the LDS Church, though Mitchell's religious views would become increasingly extreme. Mitchell and Barzee eventually left the church and he began going by the name Emmanuel, claiming to be a prophet of God who experienced prophetic visions. Wanda began going by the name Hipzibah, Hipzibah, and the two would panhandle and preach in downtown Salt Lake. Mitchell presented himself in an image that was akin to the image of Jesus, dressing in white robes and tunics and growing a beard. So in the early hours of June the 5th, 2002, Brian David Mitchell broke into the home of Edward and Lois Smart in the Federal Heights neighbourhood, where they lived with their 6 children. He abducted 14-year-old Elizabeth Smart from the bedroom she shared with her 9-year-old sister, Mary Catherine, who was awakened but pretended to be asleep, and later reported the following. A white man, about the height of her brother Charles, about 30 or 40 years old, wearing light-coloured clothes and a golf hat. He had dark hair and also dark hair on his arms and the back of his hands. The man threatened Elizabeth with a knife. When Elizabeth said ouch after stubbing her toe on the chair, Brian Mitchell said something that sounded like, "You better be quiet and I won't hurt you." She heard Elizabeth ask, "Why are you doing this?" And though the answer was not clear, Mary Catherine thought that might have been for ransom. Mitchell was actually soft-spoken, even polite, calm, and nicely dressed. Although Brian spoke to Elizabeth quietly, Mary Catherine thought that Brian's voice seemed somehow familiar, but she could not pinpoint where or when she heard it. When she thought Elizabeth and the abductor had gone, Mary Catherine started for her parents' bedroom, but narrowly avoided by being seen by Mitchell and Elizabeth, who were outside the bedroom of the family boys. She crept back into her bed, where she hid from an undetermined time, possibly over 2 hours. Just before 4 a.m, Mary Catherine woke her parents and told them what had happened. Thinking she had been dreaming, they did not believe her until they found a screen window that had been cut with a knife. So for the search and the investigation, on June 6th, so the next day, Ed and Lois went on television and pleaded for the kidnapper to return their daughter. A massive regional search effort organised by Laura Recovery Centre involved up to 2,000 volunteers each day, as well as dogs and planes. Various websites carried flyers that could be printed or circulated via internet. After many days of intensive searching, the community-led search was ended and efforts were directed to other means of finding Elizabeth. Mary Catherine's observations were of little use, and there was little evidence found at the crime scene, such as fingerprints or DNA. They used bloodhounds for search, but that was unsuccessful. Police questioned and interviewed hundreds of potential suspects, including a 26-year-old who was cleared after being located in West Virginia hospital. The investigation had the side effect of returning several at-large criminals to prison, but Elizabeth was not found. So the Salt Lake City Police considered Richard Ritchie a person of interest early into the investigation. Ritchie was a handyman with a history of drug abuse who had worked for the Smarts. He had been jailed on an unrelated parole violation prior. Ritchie died of a brain hemorrhage in August 2002. Elizabeth's family persistently kept Elizabeth's name in the press, for example, providing home videos of her and created a website about her abduction. So after Elizabeth's kidnapping, taken by Brian David Mitchell into the woods to an encamp outside of Salt Lake, where she was met by Wanda. According to Smart's testimony, Barzee eventually just proceeded to wash her feet and told her to change out of her pyjamas into a robe type of garment. And when she refused, Wanda said if she didn't, she would have Brian Mitchell come and rip her pyjamas off. She put on the robe. He came and performed the ceremony, which was to marry me to him. After that, he proceeded to rape her. Brian claimed to be an angel, and he also told Smart that he was a deficit king who would emerge in 7 years, be stoned by a mob, lie dead in the streets for 3 days, and then rise up and kill the Antichrist. Elizabeth insisted she was the first of many virgin brides he planned to kidnap, each of whom would accompany him as he battled the Antichrist. To keep Elizabeth from escaping, she was shackled to a tree with a metal cable which allowed her limited mobility outside of the tent she occupied. During Elizabeth's captivity, she was forced to take a new name, and she chose the name Esther after Esther of the Old Testament. Brian David Mitchell also called her Shir Jazhub. Sorry, I can't pronounce these names. It was later revealed during a court testimony that Brian Mitchell repeatedly raped Elizabeth, sometimes multiple times a day, forced her to look at pornographic magazines, and regularly threatened to kill her. He often forced her to drink alcohol and take drugs to lower her resistance, and both starved her and fed her garbage. Smart's abuse was facilitated with the assistance of Barzee, who Elizabeth would later refer to the most evil woman she had ever met. In September 2002, Mitchell and Barzee left Salt Lake with Smart, relocating to San Diego County in California, where they held Smart in an encampment in a dry creek in Lakeside. Mitchell and Barzee relocated with Smart several times to different companies in San Diego, often moving in the middle of the night. On February 12, 2003, Mitchell was arrested in El Cajon for breaking into a church and spent several days over the incident. In October 2002, Elizabeth Smart's sister, Mary Catherine, suddenly realised that the abductor's voice was that of an unemployed man the family knew as Emmanuel, who the family had hired for a day to work on the roof and rake leaves. The police were sceptical because of the short time Emmanuel had worked for the family, the long time that elapsed, and the short time Mary Catherine had heard the abductor's voice. However, the family had a sketch artist draw Emmanuel's face from their descriptions, and in February, this drawing was released to the media. It was shown on Larry King Live and America's Most Wanted. The drawing was recognised by the family of Brian David Mitchell, who gave police contemporary photographs of him. March 12, 2003, Mitchell was spotted with 2 women in Sandy by a couple who had seen Mitchell's photos on the news. The women were Elizabeth Smart, disguised in a grey wig, sunglasses and veil, and Wanda Elaine Barzee. Smart was recognised by the officers during questioning, and Mitchell and Barzee were arrested. 1 month after the recovery of Elizabeth Smart, the state of Utah superseded the then existing Rachel Alert with the nationwide Amber Alert Child Abduction Alert System, in part to confirm with recently implemented nationwide procedures. Although the Rachel Alert was superseded, the system had seen success in the 2 years of it existing.